To the White House race now, where, despite controversy, Donald Trump continues to dominate the Republican field. A CBS News New York Times poll out today shows Trump way in front with 35% of GOP support. Texas Senator Ted Cruz is in second place at 16%.
And retired neurosurgeon Ben Carson rounds out the top three with 13%. Here to break down these numbers is CBS News Elections Director Anthony Salvanto. Anthony, thanks for coming here. I feel like we keep asking the same questions over and over again because it's sort of another week, another controversial comment with Donald Trump. It's his most controversial yet. How will the numbers be impacted? And then we don't see much of a change at all.
Right. And there's a story just in that, which is that as people keep asking these questions, oh, this must be the controversy that brings him down. Oh, that's it. We're calling the top on him. No, he keeps winning and he keeps staying on top. And in fact, in this poll, this is the highest level of support we have found for him nationally since we've been polling in this race. OK, you know, this is something that from his voters' perspective, his comments are things that they, even if they don't necessarily agree with the message, like the fact that he is raising. When we go into individual states and we ask people what's your favorite thing about Donald Trump, they specifically say they like the fact that he is speaking in ways that they don't typically hear politicians say. And we have to remember that and sort of get off of this cycle of, well, this must be something they don't like. In fact, it's the opposite of that.
Right. Let me ask you about within the poll itself, this number that looks at GOP enthusiasm. What did you find, and what does that tell us about Donald Trump and his supporters? Yeah,
2/3 of Republicans say that they would be excited or optimistic about the prospect of a Donald Trump presidency. Now, part of that is just going to be partisanship. They would feel that way about just about any Republican. But I think what it also tells you, especially that this is a national poll, is the mood of the country, the reaction of Republicans generally is optimistic about the way that things are going with this race as a whole. They think it's bringing up issues and bringing up really taking the fight to Democrats and maybe in general the kind of political discourse that we've had up until now.
And the other number that I thought was quite interesting is that 51% of those who say they support Donald Trump are firmly in support. They've made their decision. They're backing him versus the other candidates. It's pretty wobbly. It's like a 25%, right?
That's right. Every place you look, and you look at Donald Trump's voters, they're with him. Now, he's polarizing to this extent. For Republicans who are not with him, many of them would not find him an acceptable nominee. You're really either for him or you're against him. But right, his support is incredibly durable. And when you also look at it across the usual demographic groups, and here's another thing we've been watching over these months, you know, it kind of cuts across all the usual demographic groups with a little bit of a difference here between college-educated Republicans and non-college educated Republicans.
Because that's what you hear over and over again. Well, his supporters are non-college educated, but you said it cuts across the board.
Well, it does, because he's still doing well with college-educated Republicans. But you wonder sometimes when people point that out, you don't want to necessarily dismiss that and equate that or conflate it with people who are necessarily uninformed. That's just not the case. This is, I think, a lot about economics. We know that non-college educated folks have been having a harder and harder time in this new economy where we do know that the middle class is shrinking, where we do know, for both Republicans and Democrats who say this, that they feel like they're getting squeezed. And for people who don't have college educations, they feel not only that the economy is not working for them, but that the political process isn't doing enough to help them get out of that squeeze. And so this reaction against the whole process, this pushback, and they see that through Donald Trump, is such an important part of the national mood, whether or not he stays on top. And right now he is firmly on top.
Because really these kitchen table issues, at the end of the day, like there was that Pew survey that we were talking about off camera that shows more people are falling out of the middle class, either above or below. A lot of people below falling out of the middle class. And those kinds of pocketbook issues really resonate with people.
They really do. Even when we start talking about national security, which is of course important, and terrorism, which is important, of course important, that underpins all of this. And in terms of politics, there's a particular problem now. You see the Republican elites, some folks call them, Washington establishment, right? They voice a lot of concern. What happens if Trump is the nominee? But they have to be careful because white, non-college educated voters vote Republican. That's a big part of their base. They vote Republican by 15 to 18 points. So they can't necessarily go out and alienate that part by going after Donald Trump, which kind of puts them in a box right now.
All right, CBS News Elections Director Anthony Salvanto, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.